There's a fellow who's written an outstanding book. He's a professor at George Mason University Law School, Professor F.H. Buckley. I don't know the man. He says he knows me, and he says he's a listener who enjoys the show. And I started reading his book. Mark, what do you do for a good time? That's what I do. That's what I do. Excuse me. Anyway, he says that impeachment is essentially a dead letter. That impeachment is essentially dead letter, and impeachment has been essentially a dead letter from the earliest days because Congress, particularly the House, does not exercise the power intended by the framers. There have been very few attempts at impeachment. And when they are attempted, the liberal law professors lose their minds, except, of course, when it's Richard Nixon. And they go on and on and on about how high crimes and misdemeanors means, robbing a bank. That's not what high crimes and misdemeanors means. That's not what the framers intended. There's a whole history behind this, a lot of scholarship behind this. We don't expect presidents to rob banks. We expect them to behave themselves. And when they don't, it's called abusing power. A high crime and misdemeanor did not mean that a president's caught with a DUI or a high crime, he's robbed a bank or whatever. That's not what that means, although it certainly includes that. A high crime and misdemeanor was understood to mean an attack on the system of government, an attack on another branch, that is, conducting yourself outside of the authority in the Constitution. That is considered the highest of high crimes, and certainly was by the framers. Rejecting the Constitution in your oath of office, that is what they meant by a high crime and misdemeanor in public office. And yet, we today have a president of the United States who conducts himself whenever he can, whenever he thinks he can get away with it, as a king. What do you think the framers at the Constitutional Convention would think of what this man's doing? And as I say, he's cheered on by academia, he's cheered on by the media, he's cheered on by his own party, and for the most part, the Republican Party sits there with their thumb up their nose. Well, we need to build the political will to do something about it. Are they? No. Will they? No. Are they capable of it? No. And the bar now is very, very high. And so our country is being transformed by a president who is not complying with the Constitution. He's not complying with statutory law. He's using the regulatory system and executive powers outside of their traditional uses to advance an agenda that is not provided for under the Constitution. And it's only getting worse. And this same professor, F.H. Buckley, he points out this loss of political freedom we have, which is obvious, resulting as a result of the concentration of power by the president. He points out, he uses this word reversibility. He said, we're unable to reverse what he does. We're unable to reverse it because Washington is so powerful and they institute these things that no matter who we elect, no matter what court we're in front of, these decisions become irreversible. I have described it as them becoming permanent, same thing. And they want to put these things in place so even bad laws, bad regulations, bad acts can very, very rarely be changed. Look at Obamacare. Look at what the Republicans are saying. Well, going to be so many, 35 million people are going to depend on it. And their mouthpieces and the idiots and the media going on and on and the pseudo-conservative press. Yeah, well, they have a point. Boehner's right. We can't really reverse it, And so this is the problem.